What's up, losers? Today I'm back looking at some more posts from r/fatlogic and offering up my thoughts and opinions on them. This is episode 51 in the fatlogic series, and I've got some very interesting posts lined up. So without further delay, let's get right into it.
You cannot fight for justice if you do not fight for fat people to be celebrated for their fatness, with no judgments, and no strings, and no conditions, just like you want women to be, black people to be, disabled people to be, and queer people to be.
Wow, so I guess it isn't fat acceptance anymore. Because being accepted as fat, and insulated from any possible criticism or scrutiny, just isn't good enough. After all, mere acceptance isn't going to give you the attention, or the ego boost, that you feel that you deserve, is it? So now we're expected to celebrate fat people for their fatness. I'm not sure how we're to do that exactly. Are we going to throw them a big party, shower them in chicken wings and chocolate cake, and applaud them for their bravery? Or is it going to be a more low-key form of celebration, like International Fatties Day, or Fat History Month? I'm not sure. It's funny to see, once again, the disconnect between what fat activists want, and what regular fat people want. Most fat people are not happy about being fat. They would rather be thin. And they may even feel some embarrassment about the current size. The last thing they would want is for more attention to be drawn to it. Like, imagine being a normal fat person, just minding your own business, trying to live your life, and getting roped into some bizarre celebration of fatness. It would be mortifying LMAO. Furthermore, even if you are totally okay with being fat, and not self-conscious about your weight in the slightest, I find it a little sad to think that you would want to be celebrated for your fatness, rather than for something, I don't know, good, or meaningful. Because if your answer to the question of, what do you like most about yourself, is, my fatness, well, that's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? Finally, I don't think that fatness should be compared to the things that it's being compared to here. It's not like being black, queer, or a woman, because A, those are inherent qualities, not things that you can control like your weight, and B, because blackness, queerness, and womanhood are things that are totally harmless, that have been unfairly demonized, and used to take away people's rights throughout history, which is why people celebrate them, as a way of setting the record straight. Whereas obesity is a serious medical condition that causes very real harm to people, and should not be normalized, let alone celebrated, under any circumstances. And as for disability, yeah, let's not make that comparison either. While I'm all for celebrating disabled people, focusing on what they can do rather than what they can't, and acknowledging the unique strengths, I don't think we should label disability, in general, as a good thing. People don't choose to be disabled, and I'm sure that lots of disabled people, however they might make the best of their situation, would rather not have the disabilities that they do. To compare this to obesity, which is totally within one's power to control, strikes me as more than a little insensitive, not to mention inaccurate. So yeah, let's not celebrate fatness, and let's not keep using other minority movements to prop up fat activism, because it can't stand on its own 2 feet. Okay, cool.
Dieting, weight/shape preoccupation, restricting foods, fasting/skipping meals. Disordered eating, weight/shape preoccupation, restricting foods, fasting/skipping meals.
This is such a nothing post. For a number of reasons. It really thinks it's proving some eye-opening point, when in reality it's just exposing a lack of nuance, and a questionable series of assumptions about what dieting actually entails. For one thing, not everyone who diets has a preoccupation with weight or shape. Some people simply diet to shed body fat, for reasons of health or mobility, and take little interest in how this will affect their body shape or the number on the scale, other than as indicators of progress. Admittedly, most dieters do take some interest in these things, but that doesn't mean that they are preoccupied with them to a degree that qualifies as unhealthy or disordered. People can have preferences about how they would like their body to look, and take safe measures to achieve a look that they are happy with, without their lives spinning out of control or something. The same goes for weight. There's nothing wrong with wanting the number on the scale to go down, and being satisfied when it does, provided that you're not obsessive over it. Conflating all such behaviors with disordered eating is extremely unhelpful, not only because it pathologizes totally healthy diet practices, but also because it will make it harder for people to recognize if their eating really has become disordered. So yeah, not cool. The point about restriction is even more laughable. Like, not all, quote-unquote, restriction is problematic. It's only a problem if you're restricting too heavily, or if you're already underweight. People who are overweight or obese restricting their food intake to lose weight at a moderate rate is not some frightening or dangerous sign of the descent into disordered eating. It's a responsible dietary choice that will, in all likelihood, improve their health and well-being in the long run, and it's certainly better for them than just continuing to eat as much as they want and getting fatter in perpetuity. And the last point, fasting/skipping meals. Well, many if not most diets don't include any meal skipping or fasting, so I guess this doesn't include them. And as for the ones that do, I don't think it's fair to generalize them all as harmful or disordered. There's no universal law that people have to eat 3 meals every day. And if someone wants to rework their eating schedule, within reason of course, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Similarly, fasting can be done in a way that is controlled and safe, just as it can be done in a way that is reckless or disordered. You have to go on a case-by-case basis if you want to make a determination about such things. But I guess that's just too much effort. It's easier to just label it all as unsafe and disordered. Size.
Do you like being thinner, or do you like how people treat you when you're thinner?
I'm a little surprised at this one, because from my, admittedly anecdotal, experience, most fat people who lose a significant amount of weight do feel better than they did when they were at their biggest. I've certainly never heard someone say that they felt worse after having lost the weight. Sure, they might miss being able to eat the way that they did previously, but that's hardly the same thing as preferring to be fat. My guess is that this post was written by someone who has either never managed to lose a lot of weight, or never seriously tried, and that they're trying to convince themselves that being thin isn't all it's cracked up to be. Not because they necessarily believe that, but because it makes them feel better about themselves to think that way, and to act like they're bravely rebelling against thin supremacy by staying fat, rather than just flushing their own health down the toilet. But I will admit that this is conjecture on my part. Maybe the person who wrote the post actually did lose weight, and didn't like being thin. For whatever reason, I have no way of knowing. Either way, the post doesn't add up to me. If anyone watching has first-hand experience of losing a lot of weight, feel free to chime in the comments. Maybe I'm wrong. I kinda doubt it though, haha. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the posts and my commentary, even though I rambled on a bit about the first 2. What do you think? Do we need to celebrate fat people for their fatness? Are dieting and disordered eating the same thing? Do people only feel better when they're thin because people treat them better? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll throw you a huge surprise party to celebrate how fat you are. And I'll invite all your friends and family. And it'll be super duper embarrassing. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.